The massive viewing window of the Galactic Council space station showed a sea of stars that stretched into infinity. Commander Jake Morrison stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching alien species from across the galaxy gather in the main assembly hall. This was humanity's first real chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the coalition forces. Captain Lisa Warren approached from behind, her boots clicking softly on the metal floor. "Sir, the representatives are ready for the demonstration," she said quietly. Jake nodded and turned away from the window. The assembly hall buzzed with dozens of different languages, all translated through the universal communication devices, each species. War. At the center of the room stood a holographic display showing recent pirate attacks on trade routes. The attacks had grown bolder over the past year, threatening multiple species and disrupting commerce across 3 sectors. Ambassador Vexter of the Krillian species stood near the display, his insectoid body covered in gleaming blue armor plates. His forearms gestured at the hologram as he spoke to General Zarketh, a massive draconid whose scales shimmered red and gold under the station lights. "The human military records are disappointing." Vexter clicked, his mandibles moving rapidly. "They have no genetic modifications, no hive mind tactical coordination, no natural weapons." General Zarketh huffed, smoke curling from his nostrils. "I reviewed their combat footage." The draconid rumbled. "They rely entirely on tools and machines. Their bodies are weak and slow. They have no armor plating or enhanced senses." Jake approached the 2 alien commanders with Lisa at his side. "Gentlemen," he said calmly, "I understand you have concerns about human capabilities." Vexter turned his compound eyes toward Jake, studying him with barely concealed disdain. "Commander Morrison, your species is clearly intelligent," the ambassador said. "Your technology is adequate. Your ships are well designed. But combat effectiveness requires more than engineering. We need soldiers who can fight." Zarketh added bluntly, "Your humans seem suited for support roles at best. Perhaps technical positions or medical staff." Lisa's jaw tightened, but Jake remained relaxed. "What specifically concerns you about human combat ability?" he asked. At Vexter gestured to the holographic display, switching it to show a training course. "This operation will require precision elimination of pirate leadership," he explained. "We need elite snipers who can take targets at extreme range under difficult conditions. The Krillians have bred specialized marksmen for 70 generations." Vexter continued with pride. "Their neural pathways are optimized for distance calculation, and their eyes can see thermal signatures. The draconids have warriors who can hold a firing position without movement for 3 days." Zarketh boasted, "Our bones lock into place, our hearts slow to conserve energy. The Volcarans have genetic modifications that eliminate hand tremors and enhance focus." Another voice added from across the room. Jake listened patiently as species after species described their specialized sniper units. Each one had been bred, modified, or evolved specifically for the role of long-range elimination. "So, you see our concern," Vexter said. "Show us your elite sniper unit, Commander Morrison, and perhaps we can find a place for them in our coalition." Jake looked at Lisa, and a small smile crossed his face. "Pick any human, civilian back on Earth," he said. "Simply, that's your sniper." The assembly hall fell. Silent. Several species exchanged confused glances while others made sounds that clearly indicated offense. "You mock us," Zarketh growled, his scales rising in anger. "This is a serious military operation." "Commander, not a joke. I'm completely serious," Jake replied, his tone never wavering. "Select any random human civilian from Earth. Bring them here. Give them a rifle, and they will match or exceed your specialists." Vexter's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. "Impossible. he declared. You claim that an untrained, unmodified civilian from your species can match warriors bred for 70 generations. Not just match, Jake said quietly. Exceed. The murmuring in the hall grew louder as Silverin delegate stepped forward, her silver skin reflecting the harsh station lights. Commander Morrison, this claim is extraordinary, she said. Do you have evidence to support it? I can provide a demonstration. Jake offered. Bring 3 random civilians from Earth. I'll give them standard rifles with no modifications, and we'll run your training course. If they fail, Vexter challenged, humanity will be rejected from the coalition. And if they succeed, Jake countered, you'll accept that human capabilities are being underestimated. Zarkith laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the hall. Very well, human. We accept your demonstration, he said. But know this, when your civilians fail, your species will be the laughingstock of the galaxy. We will design the course ourselves. Vexter added, long-range targets, environmental challenges. Everything our specialists train for. Fair enough. Jake agreed. Give me 2 days to bring the civilians from Earth. The aliens began talking among themselves, already planning the humiliation they expected to inflict on humanity. Some spoke of it as a lesson in humility, others as entertainment. Lisa waited until they were back in the human quarters before speaking. Sir, are you certain about this? She asked. Those aliens have spent generations perfecting their snipers, and you're betting on random civilians. Jake moved to the communication console and began typing. Lisa, did you ever go hunting back on Earth? He asked. A few times with my father. She replied. Deer mostly? Why? How old were you when you learned to shoot? 8. Maybe 9 years old. Jake nodded and continued typing. And how many humans do you think learned to shoot around that age? Lisa considered the question. In rural areas. Probably most of them in suburban and urban areas. Maybe less, but still common. Exactly, Jake said. The aliens bred specialists over generations. But on Earth, we made everyone capable because we had to. I don't understand. You will, Jake promised. In 2 days. Those aliens are going to learn something important about humanity. He finished typing and sent the message within hours. A transport ship was being prepared on Earth. 3 names had been randomly selected from volunteer lists. A mechanic from Montana, a teacher from Texas, and an accountant from Michigan. None of them had military training. None of them knew why they were being brought to a space station, but all of them had grown up on Earth. And on Earth, certain skills weren't optional. They were necessary for survival. Jake looked out at the stars again and allowed himself a real smile. The aliens thought they were about to witness a failure. Instead, they were about to discover what it meant to evolve on a death world where every human needed to hunt. The transport shuttle docked with the space station 36 hours later. 3 confused humans stepped through the airlock, their eyes wide as they took in the massive alien structure around them. Danny Foster was first. A tall man in his early 30s with calloused hands and oil stains on his jacket that wouldn't quite wash out behind him came Maria Santos, a young woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Wearing a simple blue dress she'd chosen for what she thought was a diplomatic event. Ben Carter emerged last, adjusting his glasses nervously, his accountant's mind already trying to calculate the costs of building something as large as the space station. Captain Lisa Warren met them at the docking bay. Welcome to the Galactic Council Station, she said with a professional smile. I'm Captain Warren, and I apologize for the mysterious circumstances of your selection. Ma'am, the message said we won some kind of lottery, Danny said slowly, but this doesn't look like any prize ceremony I've ever seen. That's because we needed volunteers without causing a panic, Lisa admitted. The truth is, we need your help with a demonstration. A demonstration of what? Maria asked. Your ability to shoot accurately at long range. The three civilians exchanged glances. I'm a mechanic. Danny said, I hunt elk in the fall, but I'm not military. I teach second grade. Maria added, I haven't fired a gun in maybe 6 months, and I'm an accountant. Ben said flatly, I do target shooting on weekends for relaxation. That's exactly why you're here. Lisa explained, please. Follow me to meet Commander Morrison. She led them through corridors filled with aliens of every description. Krillian workers scuttled past on 6 legs, carrying equipment in multiple arms. 2 Draconid soldiers stood guard at an intersection. Their scales gleaming under the bright lights. Danny nearly walked into a floating Etherian, a species that looked like living clouds of gas contained in force fields. This is insane. Ben muttered, I have clients expecting their tax returns next week. Jake Morrison waited for them in a small briefing room. He stood as they entered and gestured to seats around a table. Thank you for coming, he began. I know this is unexpected and probably frightening. Sir, with respect, what's really going on? Danny asked. Jake took a breath and explained the situation. The coalition, the pirate threat, the alien doubts about human capability. So you told them any human civilian could be a sniper, Maria said when he finished, and then you picked us to prove it. Exactly. That's either really confident or really crazy. Danny observed, maybe both. Jake admitted with a slight smile. But I grew up in Wyoming, and I know what it means to grow up hunting. I know the skills that requires. He turned to Maria. You're from Texas. Family ranch according to your file. Yes, sir, she confirmed. My father taught me and my brothers to shoot when we were kids. We had to protect livestock from coyotes and wild pigs. And Ben, you've been competing in precision shooting competitions for 5 years. It's a hobby, Ben protested. I'm not a soldier. That's the point. Jake said, the aliens have bred specialized warriors over generations. They think combat capability is something you create through genetic modification or specialized training. But on Earth, it's something you learn because you need it. Lisa brought out 3 standard human rifles, setting them on the table. These are M24 rifles. Nothing special, no modifications, standard military issue. Danny picked one up, checking it with practiced ease. Weight's good. Balance is nice, he said. When's this demonstration? Tomorrow morning, Jake replied. The aliens have set up a course they designed to test their own specialists. Tomorrow, Maria repeated. We get 1 night to prepare for something alien snipers train their whole lives for. You've been preparing your whole lives, Jake said. You just didn't know it was preparation. He showed them footage of the alien snipers. The Krillian with its enhanced eyes. The Draconid with its bone-locking ability. The Velcaran with its genetic modifications. They're impressive, Ben admitted, but they're specialized, Jake pointed out. Each one can do one thing perfectly, but they've sacrificed adaptability, and humans adapt. Lisa added, it's what we do best. The 3 civilians were given quarters near the human section of the station. Jake arranged for them to access a practice range that evening. Danny was first on the range, settling into position with the rifle. His breath slowed automatically. Muscle memory from years of hunting elk in the Montana mountains. Squeezed the trigger, and the target 800 meters downrange showed a perfect center hit. Not bad for a mechanic, Lisa observed. Danny grinned. Ma'am, where I'm from, if you can't put meat in the freezer, winter gets real hungry real fast. Maria took the next position. Her style was different, more patient, waiting for everything to feel exactly right before firing. My father used to say that rushing a shot wastes bullets and scares away game. She explained, take your time, breathe, and make it count. Her shot hit slightly left of center. She adjusted, and her next 3 shots formed. Tight group in the bullseye. Ben approached the rifle, Like a math problem, he pulled out a small notebook and started making calculations, wind speed, distance, bullet drop. Earth gravity versus station gravity, he muttered. You're overthinking it. Danny called out. Maybe. Ben replied. But my way works for me. His shot took longer to set up. But when he fired, it was dead center. They practiced for 2 hours. Helping each other. Sharing tips, Danny showed Maria how to account for different wind conditions. Maria taught Ben about breathing rhythm and heartbeat timing. Ben calculated optimal firing. Solutions for various distances. Lisa watched them work together and felt something shift in her. Understanding these weren't soldiers following orders. They were ordinary people supporting each other, using skills they'd learned for different reasons, but applying them to the same goal. They're going to surprise everyone tomorrow, she said to Jake, who had joined her in the observation room. I know, he replied. That's what humans do. The next morning arrived quickly. The 3 civilians ate breakfast together in nervous silence. Danny wore his work jacket. Maria had changed into practical pants and a shirt. Ben still wore his glasses and looked like he'd rather be reviewing spreadsheets. Whatever happens, Maria said, at least we're doing this together. Together, Danny agreed for Earth. Ben added with a weak smile. They walked to the demonstration range where dozens of alien species had gathered to watch. Vexter stood at the front, his mandibles clicking in anticipations. Arth loomed beside him, smoke curling from his nostrils. The human civilians have arrived, Vexter announced. Let us see if Commander Morrison's bold claim has any truth to it. The shooting course stretched before them, targets at varying distances. Some moving, some stationary, all at ranges that would challenge even experienced snipers. Jake stood beside his 3 volunteers. Just do what you know how to do, he said quietly. Pretend you're back home. Danny picked up his rifle and moved to the firing line. The assembled aliens watched in silence. Some were curious, most were skeptical. A few seemed amused. Danny looked downrange at the targets for a moment. He wasn't on a space station surrounded by aliens. He was in the mountains. Dawn light breaking over the peaks, elk moving through the trees. He took a breath and began to shoot. The Galactic Council reconvened in the main assembly chamber 3 hours after the demonstration. The atmosphere had changed dramatically. Where before there had been dismissive confidence, now there was cautious concern. Ambassador Vexter stood at his podium, his compound eyes scanning the assembled delegates. The demonstration results are undeniable, he began. However, we cannot accept these results at face value without understanding how they are possible. We demand a full explanation. Commander Morrison, 3 civilians cannot simply match our specialists without some form of enhancement. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. General Zarketh rose from his seat. I have reviewed the humans' biological scans, he said. There are no genetic modifications, no cybernetic enhancements, no chemical augmentations. They are completely baseline members of their species, which makes their performance even more disturbing. Jake stood and moved to the central display. Captain Lisa Warren joined him, carrying a datapad loaded with information about Earth. With your permission, I'd like to explain where humanity comes from, Jake said. Understanding our planet will help you understand our capabilities. The chamber fell silent. Jake activated the holographic display and Earth appeared, rotating slowly above them. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. This is Earth, he began, our homeworld. It looks peaceful, a Silveran delegate observed. It looks like a garden world. Paradise conditions. It's a death world, Lisa corrected. Bluntly, the chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Impossible, Vexter declared. Death worlds cannot support complex civilizations. The environmental pressures are too extreme. Earth supports over 8 billion humans, Jake said. And yes, it's a death world by galactic standards. He changed the display to show Earth's predators: lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, sharks, snakes. These are just some of the species that actively hunt humans, he explained. For most of our evolution, we were prey. The aliens leaned forward, studying the creatures. They don't look that dangerous. Velkarin said skeptically. That crocodilian appears slow. That crocodile can accelerate faster than most of your ground vehicles, Lisa replied. It can hold its breath underwater for hours, waiting in perfect stillness, then strike with enough force to drag prey twice its size underwater. The large feline, Jay continued, pointing to a lion, can run at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour in short bursts. It hunts in coordinated packs, using strategy and teamwork. And the bears, Lisa added, can weigh over 600 kilograms, have claws that can tear through metal, and can smell prey from miles away. These creatures shared our environment, Jake said. They hunted us. We had to learn to hunt them back. Zarkith studied the display carefully. But these are animals, he said. Mindless beasts. How did they pressure your evolution so severely? Because Earth doesn't just have one predator. Lisa explained she changed the display to show dozens of different dangerous species. Depending on where you live on Earth, you might face entirely different threats. Venomous spiders, aggressive primates, pack-hunting canines, ambush predators. In the water, humans had to develop the ability to handle any threat, not just one specific danger. Jake nodded. We couldn't evolve armor like the Draconids because different predators required different defenses. We couldn't develop specialized hunting organs like the Krillians because we needed to hunt different prey in different environments. So we evolved something else. Intelligence, Vexter said quietly. And tool use, Jay confirmed. Our hands are designed to make and use tools. Our brains are designed to solve problems. And our bodies are designed for endurance. Lisa brought up footage of a human persistence hunt. This is an ancient human hunting technique still practiced by some tribes. The video showed a human following an antelope across grasslands. The human isn't faster than the prey, she explained, but the human doesn't stop. Hour after hour, the human tracks the animal. The prey runs in bursts and then rests. The human just keeps coming. Eventually, the prey collapses from exhaustion and heat. The human walks up and makes the kill. The chamber watched in silence as the hunt played out over hours. That's horrifying, someone whispered. That's survival, Jake said. Humans became persistence hunters because we couldn't catch prey with speed or strength. So we outlasted them. We tracked them for days if necessary. We learned patience, pattern recognition, and absolute determination. Maria Santos spoke up from where she sat with the other civilians. My grandfather used to tell me that the animal you hunt teaches you how to hunt it. You have to understand how it thinks, where it goes, what it fears. You have to become patient enough to wait for the perfect moment. Danny added his voice. In Montana, an elk can smell you from half a mile away, hear you from even further. You learn to move silently, to control your breathing, to stay perfectly still for hours. You learn because if you don't, your family doesn't eat. Ben pushed his glasses up and said, For me, it was different. I learned to shoot as a sport, but even as a hobby, it taught me discipline, focus, and precision. Things that helped me in my career. Vexter's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. So these skills are not military training, he said. They are survival skills that your entire population learns. Many of us. Yes, Jake confirmed. Not every human hunts, but the skills are common. In rural areas especially, children learn to shoot at young ages. Lisa pulled up statistics. On the display, approximately 40% of human households own firearms. Many more have experience with bows, crossbows, or other precision weapons. Hunting, sport shooting, and self-defense training are widespread activities. But why? A Krillian delegate asked, why do civilians need such training? Because Earth is dangerous. Jake said simply, in many regions. You need to protect livestock from predators. You need to hunt for food to supplement what you can grow or buy. You need to defend yourself and your family from dangerous animals or dangerous people. The implications settled over the chamber. Like a heavyweight general, Zarkith stood slowly. Let me understand this correctly, he said. Your species evolved on a world so dangerous that basic survival required the ability to hunt. So you all learned these skills as a fundamental part of your culture. That's correct, Jake confirmed. And when you said any civilian could be a sniper, you meant that literally, because any human who grew up hunting, or target shooting, or even just learned basic marksmanship would have the foundational skills. Yes, Zarkith's scales rippled with colors. Jake's translator interpreted as profound unease. Commander Morrison, do you understand what you're telling? You're saying your entire species is composed of potential soldiers. Jake shook his head. No. General, we're saying our entire species learned to survive. There's a difference. Is there? Vexthor challenged. A human with those skills could easily become a combat threat. A human with those skills could also become a farmer, a teacher, or an accountant, Lisa pointed out. Danny fixes cars. Maria teaches 7-year-olds to read. Ben balances budgets. The skills exist, but the purpose is different. Maria stood up, her voice firm. I learned to shoot to protect my family's animals. From predators, I've never aimed a weapon at another intelligent being, and I pray I never have to. The skills my father taught me were about responsibility and respect for life. Danny nodded in agreement. Where I'm from, we thank the animal after a successful hunt. We use every part we can. It's about survival and respect, not killing for the sake of killing. The math and discipline I learned from shooting, Ben added, helped me become better at my job. It taught me patience and attention to detail. Those same skills make me a better accountant. Jake let his civilian's words sink in before speaking again. The reason I chose civilians for the demonstration, he said, was to show you who we really are. Yes, we have military forces. Yes, we have trained soldiers. But they're not fundamentally different from regular humans. They're just humans who focus their existing skills toward protection and defense. The mechanic, the teacher, the accountant, they represent human potential. We all have it. But that doesn't mean we're all warriors, Lisa added. In human culture, the ability to cause harm comes with the responsibility to avoid it whenever possible. We call it civilization. The council members sat in contemplative silence. The revelation had changed their entire perspective on humanity. What they had seen as weakness was actually restraint. What they had dismissed as inadequacy was actually universal competentive vexor. Finally spoke. This is unprecedented in galactic history. A species where military-level skills are culturally universal, but where military action is not the default choice. It creates a paradox. It creates balance. Jake said, we're capable of fighting, but we prefer not to. We can be deadly, but we choose to be peaceful when possible. That's the truth about humanity. We're all potential snipers, but most of us would rather build things than destroy them. The chamber remained silent as the aliens processed everything they had learned. Earth was a death world. Humans were survivors. And humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or their military. It was the fact that every human carried the capability for precise, deadly force, but chose mercy instead. The first target appeared on the holographic display. 800 meters, stationary. Standard size Danny Foster settled into his firing position with the ease of someone who had done this 1,000 times. His breathing slowed to a steady rhythm. The rifle became an extension of his body, natural as his own arms. The aliens watched with barely concealed skepticism. Nexter's compound eyes tracked every movement. Looking for signs of the advanced training he assumed must be hidden somewhere, as Arth stood with his massive arms crossed, already composing the dismissive speech he would give when the humans failed. Danny's finger tightened on the trigger. The shot rang out across the range, 800 meters downrange. The target registered a perfect center hit. A murmur ran through the alien observers. Lucky shot, someone muttered in the crowd. Wait for the next one. Danny didn't hear them. He was already tracking the second target, 1,000 meters. Slight wind from the left in his mind. He was tracking an elk through aspens, calculating the distance by instinct. Feeling the wind on his face, the second shot hit just off-center, still well within the kill zone. The murmurs grew louder. The third target was 1,200 meters away and moving slowly from left to right. Danny watched it, timing its movement pattern. 5 seconds to cross the designated zone. He led the target by instinct, muscle memory from years of shooting at moving game. The shot connected dead center. Impossible. Vexter clicked. That target is moving. The wind conditions are variable. The distance requires exact calculation. He's not calculating, Lisa Warren said quietly from the sidelines. He's hunting. Danny continued through the course. Targets at 900 meters, 1,100 meters, 1,400 meters. Some stationary, some moving, some appearing only briefly before disappearing. He missed one shot at 1,500 meters. The furthest target on the course, the unfamiliar rifle weight, threw off his compensation for the extreme distance. Final score, 14 out of 15 targets hit. The aliens stood in shocked silence. That score would have been excellent for their own specialists. For an untrained civilian, it seemed impossible. A fluke, Zarkis declared, though his voice carried less certainty than before. Let us see the next human attempt. Maria Santos stepped up to the firing line, where Danny had been quick and instinctive. Maria was patient and methodical. She took her time settling into position, adjusting her stance 3 times before she was satisfied. What is she doing? A Valkaran observer asked. Why does she wait? She's making sure everything is perfect before she commits. Jake explained. It's a different hunting style. Maria's father had taught her that rushing led to mistakes. 1 perfect shot was worth 10 hasty ones. She looked downrange at the first target and took a slow breath. The rifle was heavier than her father's old hunting rifle, but the principle was the same. Wait for the right moment. Let everything align, then make it count. Her first shot was perfect, so was her second and her third. The aliens leaned forward, watching more intently now. This wasn't luck. This was something else. Maria moved through the course with steady precision. Each shot was preceded by a long pause as she waited for conditions to stabilize. Wind would gust, and she would wait for it to settle. The moving targets she watched patiently, learning their patterns before firing. At the 1,400-meter mark, she faced a target that appeared randomly in one of 3 locations. Most shooters would have to guess and fire quickly when it appeared. Maria waited and watched for 2 full cycles. The target appeared left, then right, then center. She noticed it stayed visible slightly longer in the center position on the 3rd cycle. She anticipated the center appearance and fired the moment it materialized. Perfect hit. She's reading the patterns, Ben whispered to Danny, learning the system. That's smart shooting. Danny agreed. Maria finished her course. 15 out of 15 targets. Every single shot found its mark. The alien observers erupted into agitated discussion. Vexter's mandibles clicked so rapidly they created a constant buzzing sound. 2 humans cannot both achieve specialist-level scores by coincidence, he said. There must be hidden enhancements. Genetic modifications we're not detecting. Or, Jake said calmly, They're just doing what humans do. Impossible, Zarkith rumbled. But now his scales showed colors of uncertainty. Ben Carter adjusted his glasses and approached the firing line. He looked even less like a warrior than the other two. His hands weren't calloused from hard labor. He moved with the careful precision of someone who spent his days behind a desk. The aliens seemed to relax slightly. Surely this one would. Philbin set up his rifle and pulled out his small notebook. What is he doing? A Silveran delegate asked. He's calculating. Lisa explained. Math. Ben wrote down the distance to each target, the wind speed readings displayed on his scope, the gravity differential between Earth and the station in his mind. Each shot was a problem to solve, variables to account for, equations to balance. It wasn't about instinct or muscle memory. It was about finding the correct answer. His first shot took nearly a minute to set up. When he finally fired, it was perfect. The second shot was faster. It already worked out the base calculations and only needed to adjust for changing conditions. By the fifth shot, he developed a system. Check wind, adjust for distance, account for movement if applicable. Fire. His engineering mind had turned sniping into a formula. The aliens watched in growing disbelief as this accountant, this civilian who looked like he'd never held a weapon in his life, methodically destroyed every target on the course. Ben's style was completely different from both Danny and Maria, where Danny relied on instinct and Maria on patience. Ben used pure calculation, but the result was the same. 14 out of 15 targets hit. Missed one of the moving targets at 1,300 meters because he second-guessed his lead calculation. When he finished, he immediately started writing notes in his book about what adjustment would have worked. The alien observers stood frozen in shock. 3 random human civilians had just matched or exceeded the performance of specialists bred and trained over generations. This changes everything, Vexter said. Quiet. Lazarth stared at the target display, smoke curling from his nostrils in agitation. How? He demanded. How is this possible? Because they're human, Jake said simply, and humans learn to hunt. Krillian specialist who had scored 15 out of 15 earlier stepped forward. I was bred for this, he said, his translated voice filled with confusion. My genetic line has been optimized for 70 generations. My eyes can see spectrums you cannot. My neural pathways calculate trajectories automatically. And I'm a mechanic. Danny said, I learned to shoot when I was 10 because my father taught me. Same as his father taught him. I teach children, Maria added. But I grew up on a ranch where we had to protect our animals. Everyone in my family can shoot. I'm an accountant. Ben said, I took up precision shooting because I liked the mathematical challenge. The aliens looked at each other with growing unease. You mean to tell us, a Velcaran said slowly, that your entire species has this capability? Not everyone, Jake admitted, but a lot of us. Yeah, we grew up on a world with dangerous animals, Lisa explained. Predators that hunted us. Harsh weather, limited resources in many areas. Humans who couldn't hunt, couldn't shoot accurately, often didn't survive to pass on their genes. Vexler's mandibles stopped clicking. The implications were sinking in. So when you said choose any civilian, he said slowly, you meant it literally. I meant it literally, Jake confirmed. That mechanic, that teacher, that accountant, they represent average human capability. Not exceptional. There are millions more just like them on Earth. The assembly hall fell into heavy silence as the aliens processed this information. They had thought humanity was weak instead. They had discovered a species where even civilians possessed skills that required generations of breeding in other species. General Zarkith approached Commander Morrison directly, for the first time since they'd met. The Dracon had showed something other than contempt. Human Commander, he said formally. We have underestimated your species severely. We accept that our evaluation was incorrect. Jake nodded. We appreciate that. General, but, Zarkith continued, this revelation raises new questions. If your civilians can do this, what can your actual military do? Jake smiled. That's a conversation for another time. For now, let's discuss how humanity can help with your pirate problem. The demonstration was over. The three civilians had proven the point. Jake needed them to prove, but for the aliens assembled there, a new and somewhat frightening reality had just been revealed. Humanity wasn't weak. They were a species of hunters, every single one of them. The Galactic Council chamber remained in heavy silence for several long minutes after Commander Morrison finished his explanation. Ambassador Vexter was the first to move, his forearms gesturing for attention. We must deliberate on what we have learned, he announced. This council will recess for 2 hours while we consider humanity's place in the coalition. The various species filed out in small groups, their conversations hushed but urgent. Jake watched them go, maintaining his calm exterior. Even though tension coiled in his chest, Lisa approached him quietly. Do you think they'll accept us? She asked, or did we scare them too badly? We'll know soon enough, Jake replied. Either way, we told them the truth. Danny, Maria, and Ben joined them near the human section. I feel like we just painted a target on Earth, Danny said, showing them how dangerous we are. We didn't show them danger, Maria corrected. We showed them capability. There's a difference. Maybe, Ben said, adjusting his glasses nervously. But capability can be threatening when you're not used to it. Jake turned to face his three civilians. You all did exactly what I hoped you would, he said. You showed them that humans are more than they assumed, but you also showed them that we use our abilities responsibly. I hope they saw that second part. Danny muttered. The 2 hours felt longer than they should have. Jake spent the time reviewing files on each alien species, trying to predict how they might vote. The Krillians valued logic and efficiency. They might see human capability as useful to Draconids, respected strength, but also feared threats to their dominance. The Silverans were cautious and diplomatic. They would weigh all options carefully. Finally, the council chamber doors opened again. The delegates filed back in, their body language unreadable to human eyes. Jake, Lisa, and the three civilians took their positions. Vexter rose to address them. Assembly, we have discussed humanity's demonstration and the information provided about their homeworld. The vote regarding their inclusion in the coalition will now proceed. But first, several delegates wish to speak. General Zarkith stood, his massive frame casting shadows across the floor. Jake tensed, expecting hostility. When humans first came before this council, Zarkith began. I dismissed them as weak. I saw their lack of armor, their reliance on tools, and I judged them inadequate. I was wrong. The Draconid scale shifted colors, showing what Jake's translator indicated was remorse. The demonstration today showed me that strength takes many forms. My species spent generations breeding warriors with specific advantages. Humans spent generations ensuring all their people could survive. That is a different kind of strength, one I failed to recognize. He turned to face Jake directly. Commander Morrison, I apologize for my dismissiveness. Your species has earned my respect. Jake nodded, accepting the apology with grace. Thank you, General. A Silveran delegate stood next. My concern is not about human capability, she said carefully. It is about human restraint. A species where any individual could become a deadly threat must have strong cultural controls. Commander Morrison, what prevents humans from using their universal skills for conquest? Jake considered the question carefully. Our history, he answered honestly. Humans have fought wars, many of them. We've seen what happens when violence becomes the default choice. We've learned that cooperation builds more than conflict destroys. It's a lesson we paid for in blood over thousands of years. Lisa added, human culture emphasizes protection over aggression. We teach our children to shoot. Yes, but we also teach them when not to shoot. Responsibility comes with capability. Maria stood and spoke without being prompted. I'm a teacher, she said. I spend my days helping children learn to read, to think, to question. The same father who taught me to shoot also taught me that every life has value. That taking a life, even an animal's life for food, is serious. That's what human culture teaches. Danny rose beside her. In my town, everyone has guns, he said, but we use them for hunting and sport. The last time someone fired a weapon in anger was never in my lifetime, because we all know what those weapons can do. We respect them, and we respect each other enough not to use them wrongly. Ben stood as well. I learned precision shooting as a way to quiet my mind, he said. The discipline, the focus, it helps me think clearly. I've competed against dozens of other shooters over the years. Not once has anyone suggested using those skills for anything but sport, because we all understand the difference between capability and intent. Vexthorous mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The humans make a compelling argument, he said. They possess dangerous skills, but show cultural restraint in using them. However, others have expressed a different concern. A Krillian delegate stood. If human civilians can match our specialists, what can human military forces do? This creates an imbalance of power that makes some species uncomfortable. Jake had been expecting this question. Our military is more trained and better equipped than civilians, he admitted, but they're built on the same foundation. What they add is organization, tactics, and specialized equipment. They're not superhuman. They're just humans who focused on military applications. Can you give us an example? The Krillian asked. Lisa pulled up a video on the holographic display. This is a human military sniper in training, she explained. The video showed a soldier taking a shot at an extreme distance. His base accuracy comes from the same skills Danny, Maria, and Ben demonstrated. What military training adds is things like advanced ballistics calculation, camouflage techniques, and operating under combat stress. But the fundamental ability to aim and shoot accurately was already there. We just refined it, Zarkith rumbled. So your military's advantage is refinement, not capability. Essentially, yes, Jake confirmed. Trained soldier will outperform a civilian in combat situations, but the gap isn't as large as it is in species, where only specialists have any skill at all. The council members exchanged glances. Jake could feel the decision hanging in the balance. Finally, Vexthor stood and called for the vote. All delegates in favor of accepting humanity into the coalition forces. Lights began appearing on the voting board. Green for acceptance, red for rejection, yellow for abstention. Jake watched as the lights filled in green from the Draconids. Zarkith had meant his apology green from the Silverans. They'd been convinced by the arguments about restraint yellow from several smaller species. Still uncertain red from a few isolationist factions who feared any change more greens appeared. The final count showed a clear majority in favor. The motion passes. Vexthor announced, humanity is accepted into the coalition forces. Jake felt tension drain from his shoulders beside him. The three civilians let out relieved breaths. However, Vexthor continued, there are conditions. Human forces will be integrated with other species units. This will allow cultural exchange and ensure cooperation. Additionally, Earth's classification as a death world will be officially recognized. This comes with certain restrictions on colonization and resource extraction. We accept those conditions, Jake said immediately. Earth needs protection as much as we need partnership. General. Zarkith approached and extended one massive clawed hand. Jake shook it, trying not to think about how easily those claws could tear through armor. Welcome to the coalition, Commander Morrison, Zarkith said. I look forward to seeing what humanity can accomplish. Over the next hour, representatives from various species approached to introduce themselves formally. Many expressed continued nervousness about human capabilities, but they also showed curiosity and respect. The Valkyran commander asked Danny about hunting techniques on Eartha. Krillian tactician wanted to discuss patience and timing with Maria. A Silveran scientist peppered Ben with questions about human calculation methods. Jake stood with Lisa, watching the interactions. They're scared of us, Lisa observed quietly, but they're also fascinated. That's a good start, Jake replied. Fear without understanding leads to conflict. Fear with respect leads to caution, and caution with curiosity leads to cooperation. As the formal proceedings ended, Jake gathered his 3 civilians. You're free to return to Earth, he told them. You've done more for humanity's reputation than any diplomat could have. What happens now? Maria asked. Now we start planning the operation against the pirates, Jake said. And we prove that humanity can be trusted as protectors, not just threats, Danny grinned. So we showed them we can shoot. Now we show them we choose not to unless necessary. Exactly. The 3 civilians prepared to leave, already looking forward to returning to their normal lives as they boarded the transport shuttle. Ben turned back. Commander, one question. Yes. Did you really choose us randomly? Jake smiled. The selection was random from a volunteer pool, but I knew what I'd get, because you're all human. And that meant you all had what we needed. Men nodded and boarded the shuttle within hours. They were on their way back to Earth, back to Danny's garage and Maria's classroom, and Ben's accounting office, back to being ordinary civilians who had done something extraordinary. Jake stood at the viewing window again, watching the stars. Lisa joined him. Think we'll have problems? She asked. Definitely, Jake replied. Some species will never fully trust us. Some will always see us as dangerous. But now they respect us, and respect is a foundation we can build on. 3 days later, the coalition operation against the pirates launched. Human forces fought alongside Krillian, Draconid, and Valkyran units. The mission was a success with minimal